Most of us would be lucky to build something that stays up for a week. But drystone waller Barney Murray puts a 100-year guarantee on his work. So far, although he does admit it's only about 10 years in, he's looking good for it.
So it's a very personal style of building. Everyone has a slightly different way, and there are principles to make the walls stronger, and that's what I always try and do. I want them to outlast me. I want them to, see it another century or two. I want them to, outlive me. That's a minimum.
I'm Chris from Canopy and Stars, and this is A Life More Wild. Join Barney now as he fixes up a gap in a wall near his home in Wales and discusses how he came to the craft, his own particular style, and finding himself a veteran of the surprisingly young walling scene when he's not even 30.
So my name is Barney Murray, and I am a professional drystone waller, and I'm going to show you the ropes today. We're going to set about building a fallen gap in what is a pretty precarious old wall, but yeah, we'll see to it that the wall is built well and to slightly better standard, hopefully, and it should stand for a century. This is Pentre Draw, which means village over there, but yeah, Pentre Draw. So we're on the other side of the river. So we're heading to the top corner of this field. I've started a little gap this morning. Well, I've done a couple of gaps here this morning, but just gonna finish that one off. Yeah, and I'll show you the ropes and see, show you how a drystone wall is made. I started when I was I came into it when I was maybe 18, 19. I was in college in Wrexham doing my art foundation and really hating it. Knowing I didn't want to go to university or, do any more academic things. I was totally fed up. So it was just complete fortune, and these two wallers who were starting up a business, and they needed a labourer, and I just hopped on it, sacked off college immediately. I got to Christmas, I think, and that was it. And £50 a day was pretty good. I was certainly happy. Very few overheads, and it opened the world. And as soon as I started, I knew that, it was for me. And I dare say it could have been anything. It could have been, it could have been hedge laying. It could have been timber framing. It could have been, farming or something. But for whatever reason, it was drystone walling. So yeah, that became my true calling. It is a brutal job, and maybe there's a sadistic nature to my what I put myself through in working, because it's tough. It can be brutal. I mean, you've come out on a very nice day, but up here it can be pretty bloody exposed, and it is hard work. But it is incredibly rewarding at the same time. Just seeing, like what this was before. This is a gap that I've been building. Well, I probably started it late this morning. And beforehand, it was in worse nick than that. I've just picked a section of wall which was in desperate need. So, taking it from that and turned it into this. Yeah, it's just a process of working with these shapes, these three-dimensional imagery, really, and just sort of working with the material I've got, because it's not like working with freshly quarried stone on a nice, garden job or something like that, I am at the mercy of the material that was here before. So I have to make do with what I've got, and ideally all the stone that's come down should go back up and exactly as it did. Ideally, you'd have one person on each side, and you'd build the gap in harmony. But because I'm having to hop over and do both of the sides of the wall, what I'm aiming to do, or what I have to do, is I have to sort of build up both of the skins at the same time. So effectively the two walls, I need to build them up together, just so that everything's tying in nicely, and I can keep the middle of the wall nicely packed. So as I go up, the wall gets slightly narrower as I increase the height of the wall. And again, it's like almost like the capital A letter, you know, using that triangle for strength in the wall. Yeah, so I'm constantly thinking about the next stone, just thinking about not so much the stone that I'm laying, but the stones either side of it when I place it, and also the stones that are going to sit on top of that. So I'm just sort of thinking ahead the whole time. And of course, I've done it my whole professional career, working career anyway, so doing this for 8 years. So I have to do a lot less thinking than I once did, which is nice. I sort of enter a flow state, and it is quite meditative. It is incredibly meditative. It is also insane. You're just trapped in your head. You know, if these stones break when you hit them in the wrong place, it does. You know, it can be painful and difficult, and it can make you want to quit. But you just have to fight through it. But it does look serene, especially like on a day like today, up on top of a hill, working. There is nowhere better. It is quite simply the best job in the world, and I'm very lucky to get to do it. What we're hearing there's a lot of new life in this valley. There's 2 farms in the valley. Gwyn, I think they are over there. I think that's the name of that farm. And Pentre, and they're both hard at lambing. So there's a lot of feeding happening. There's a lot of checking these sheep, these ewes, and also a lot of lambs getting taken out into the field. Drystone walling it creates so much habitat for little small mammals and invertebrates, and they all show up, and they all come and say hello. Even up here, somewhere where you wouldn't really expect to see much wildlife, because it's sort of away from any trees or anything like that. It's a bit barren either side, but I've found in this wall, I've found newts, I've found lizards, I've seen slow worms here. Obviously the osprey. I fleshed out. I know there was some little mouse hole under the foundations of this wall. So they're all here, and the wall creates a safe sanctuary for those little critters. And also the other thing it serves is for shelter for sheep and cows, if you had cows. But yeah, these walls are so important, especially somewhere like this where there's not a great deal of tree cover. So in the hottest summers and in the worst winters, these walls save thousands of lives of livestock. I think walling is in the best place it's been in, probably since the First World War. There are so many young people, sort of similar story to me as well, just they've had enough of academia, they've had enough of being sat in bloody lessons in school. And so, yeah, the demographic of walling is although, the stereotype is that it's an old man on top of a field, but the demographic is getting younger. There's a lot of young people taking to it. And I am, I'm now more of a veteran, really. There's some fantastic young wallers taking to it, and there's a really good community of young people walling and who want to help and just share knowledge and share skills, which is important. And I'm really lucky to be part of the community at the moment, because there's really big things happening. I know lots of people call it art, but I don't think it is. I think it is definitely, it is craft, because it's made by one's hands and it is functional. It serves a purpose. I can identify more or less certainly within a 30-mile radius of where I am now, pretty much all the wallers that I know, and I know their work. I can identify who's built that wall. It is very personal, the way that everyone's work looks. It's all individual, and it does tell a tale. And we're stood along this wall here, whereby many different hands have played a part in this wall and have built it, and it tells the story of all of those generations and all of those individuals who have built sections and mended it. So it is, it's very, very personal. So a Barney Murray wall is a mishmash. It's a quilt of all of the brilliant tutors and teachers that I've had over the years, and there's something that's been developed from that. So there's definitely a wibbliness to it, a wibbly tightness to my walling. I'm talking about my own work now, but that's probably how I would describe it. I mean, there's certain things, everybody sacrifices certain things in their work, because nothing can be 100% perfect, especially when you're working with penakun, when you're working with these dog's head stones. So there's always a compromise. And if that is, maybe allowing a little bit of looseness in certain aspects, so opening up these gaps or leaving a few the occasional running joint or whatever it might be, everyone has their own quirk and their own trait in their style. And it is akin to someone's handwriting. No two people build the same. However, usually you are influenced by your primary school teacher. Which actually I'm in the next door village to my old primary school teacher, Gwenol Ellis. Such is the way of these small rural communities. But I think it's just nice to do justice to those people that been before and who have contributed to that wall, have contributed to the landscape. And it's just just making sure that your work sits well within that, with using the same identical materials. And you could rebuild this section of wall 1,000,000 times over and it would never be the same. Everybody who builds it is going to do something, at least one thing differently, and there's infinite ways of arranging these stones, infinite. It's never ending. No two walls are the same, which is quite nice to think about in a way. You can never replicate it. Nothing can be truly identical to the last one. Okay, so we've built the structure of the wall, or the building, so to speak, and now I am putting the coping, or the ciad, as I'd probably call it in Welsh, the lid, the top. I'm putting the top on, and so I'm matching what the vernacular is here. So it's all the tops are sort of leaning over onto the next one, and the idea of that being, well, in my mind anyway, that should a sheep hop over the wall and drag off one of these coping stones, then because the stone next to it is leaning, it will, if that stone does come off with the sheep, it drags it off, that gap will get filled by the stone next to it falling over and shutting that gap. So but yeah, it's very much, especially with the top of the wall, it's really important that you match the local vernacular. So whatever was here before, you must always recreate. You can, when you're building the wall, it would be so easy just to use all of these beautiful flat big stones in the wall itself, but you would cheat yourself and you would kick yourself later because you would be without suitable stones for the top. So so you have to sacrifice your best stones really for this job, and ideally you have a stone that is wide enough to span the width of the top of the wall, linking and tying those two skins together. And also it does help having, you know, a wide coping, because it does prevent a lot of weather from getting in, and it does really consolidate the wall. So it's a really good practice to be strict, and that's what most of drystone walling is really. It's just, you know, not allowing yourself to use all the best stones at the start. You know, you have to just compromise, especially in a setting like this, where had I used all my tops in the bottom of the wall, I would be, you know, without, unless I went and, you know, borrowed the farmer's tractor and went up the track to where he's got a stone pile, I'd be without. But it's so nice. I've essentially built this wall with what was here. I brought in a couple of foundations just from further along, but yeah, it's all come together at the end, which is exactly as I planned it. Maybe it just happened that way this time. It doesn't always. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Approaching the last stone now. Smash. And then there we go. Just like that. The gap is complete, and the sheep are now trapped where they're meant to be, instead of free to escape as they were before. With everything I build, I confidently put a 100-year guarantee on any of my walls that are not being, you know, obviously not next to a tree that's newly planted or anything like that, because obviously trees do kill walls. But yeah, I like to put a 100-year guarantee on all of the walls that I build, and that I'd hope at least that they outlive me, and hopefully the generation after that. Yeah, that's something I can confidently say. I mean, you know, 7 years in, 8 years, whatever I am, 8 years in, and I haven't had anything fall over or go wrong so far. So I've only got 90 years left of that warranty. But yeah, it's a craft older than fire, with a material older than time.
Well, he certainly seems happy, but then he would be with such a great coping strategy. Sorry. Barney does set a good example. Ditch what you don't like in your life, find something you love doing, and do it. Not a bad plan. Another great guest will be along soon for a walk, and until then, please remember to rate and review A Life More Wild wherever you get your podcasts. We really appreciate it.